So this is a clip. This was a YouTube ad. This actually came up. I was looking for a YouTube video and an ad of this video of Charlie Kirk called "Charlie Kirk Destroys Socialist College Student." This ad came up on my YouTube, and so I had to dig down this video because I was just infuriated by what I saw. This is the brilliant conservative Charlie Kirk of Turning Points USA destroying socialism. And this clip, I don't know who to get more mad at, Charlie Kirk or the socialist who's arguing with him. Both of them, both of them are wildly ignorant. But here we go.
I, as a socialist, is that fair to say? What would be a country you think works well that's a socialist country?
There are no socialist countries right now.
There are no socialist countries right now. So you've already lost the argument, my dear. You've already lost, right? They say the whole right-wing talking point is communism has failed everywhere it's ever been tried. And then you say, oh, but that just wasn't real communism. That just wasn't real communism. And then that's just like such a convincing argument, right? I mean, Charlie Kirk probably just dropped the podium. Wow, it wasn't real communism. You won. You got it, right? Trotskyism and social democracy. And there you go. So right off the bat, she's already lost the argument. The second she said that, oh, there are no socialist countries right now, she lost the argument. But let's continue.
Been a socialist country?
Truly socialist? No.
Oh, okay. Truly socialist? No. Oh, okay. All right. So all the countries in the world that have ever had socialism are not really socialist. Again, she's already lost the argument. So, I mean, go home then. Look, if every place that communism had ever been implemented, all it ever resulted in was death, starvation, and gulags and misery, the right wing would have a point. It just so happens that's not true. And if the socialist movement in the United States had any courage, they would stand up to these lies, but they're too busy working for the U.S. government. It's unbelievable. But let's continue.
Say Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea, formerly Vietnam.
What, formerly Vietnam? This is great. So he's listing countries he thinks are socialist. And he says Venezuela, yep. Cuba, yep. North Korea, yep. Formerly Vietnam. Why formerly? When did Vietnam stop being socialist? The Communist Party has been running that country all this time. I mean, it's the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. It's run by the Communist Party, socialist-oriented market economy. The World Economic Forum has articles about Vietnam's economic miracle. Why is Vietnam not socialist? Oh, because it's successful, because it has a strong economy, and you can't be socialist if your economy is strong. You'll notice, for example, he said he didn't say China. He didn't list China because, China is a huge economic success, and that wouldn't fit his narrative. You're only a socialist country if you're poor. Right? Vietnam can't be one. It can't be a socialist country because it's economically successful. China can't be a socialist country because it's economically successful. But all these countries that have had economic hardships, they count. But China and Vietnam don't. Right?
The Soviet Union, those are.
Yeah, the Soviet Union that lifted millions of people out of poverty, defeated the Nazis, invented space travel, industrialized the whole country, had the world's biggest power plants, pretty big success, while the rest of the planet was having a Great Depression, the Soviet Union was marching forward and industrializing and wiping out illiteracy and had like the biggest steel industry in the world and, all these economic achievements, right? All of that. But, we won't mention that, right? The point is that in the early 90s, they collapsed. So therefore they achieved absolutely nothing. Oh boy.
And we're not socialist countries?
Actually, they were socialist countries. And Vietnam is a socialist country, and Cuba is a socialist country, and China is a socialist country, and Nicaragua is a socialist country. And yeah, socialism exists all over the world today, and it's very successful. But let's continue.
Were directly contributed by U.S. intervention.
Did Fidel?
Okay. So this part is just classic. I mean, and this is an argument that doesn't even help my point. It's just so infuriating to watch someone who doesn't know what they're saying, right? So this is what she said.
U.S. intervention.
So she's describing
directly contributed by U.S. intervention.
Right. So she's saying that these countries that have had socialist governments or whatever have had problems, and it's caused by U.S. interventions, right? The U.S. interventions, which it's true. I mean, you surround these countries, you barricade them, it obviously makes it very difficult for them to have prosperity. But this is Charlie Kirk's response. Oh shit, I moved it backwards. I thought I was pushing
Socialist countries?
Disastrous effects in those countries were directly contributed by U.S. intervention.
Did Fidel Castro taking over Cuba have anything to do with U.S. intervention? You believe?
Actually, yeah, it did. Yeah, it did, actually. It's a common knowledge that Fidel Castro coming to power in Cuba happened with the help of the United States. That at first the United States was backing Batista, but then when it became pretty clear that that Fidel was winning, before Fidel Castro made clear he was a communist, actually, yes, Fidel got help from the United States to initially come to power. That's documented. So even the point that he's making to try and own her is not accurate. Yes, Fidel Castro did come to power with the help of the United States. Now, when it became clear he was moving towards socialism, the United States turned against him pretty quick. But after the Cuban Revolution, Dwight Eisenhower called Fidel Castro the Thomas Jefferson of Cuba. They gave him a big parade. Like, actually, yes, Charlie Kirk. Fidel Castro coming to power did actually come as a result. There was U.S. support for Fidel Castro at one time, Charlie. So, I mean, even your point, I mean, that doesn't help her argument against you or whatever, but it's like even your point that you just made to own, like, why are you bragging about this on YouTube? You didn't realize the USA gave some covert support to Fidel in order to come to power before it became clear he was a communist? I mean, that didn't occur to you, Charlie? Like, I mean, it's like, why is this guy an expert?
Taking over Cuba have anything to do with U.S. intervention?
Yes, it did, actually. Even though that doesn't help the points of the argument, that's just a stupid own, because yes, actually, Fidel did receive some U.S. support prior to moving Cuba on the socialist road. Fidel Castro taking over Cuba actually did have U.S. support. So that's not an own, Charlie Kirk. You're just proving that you're very, very ignorant. Anyway.
Something that doesn't exist, has never existed, and even though the people that call themselves the things that you believe, you say they weren't really that, which is the most important point. Socialism is always judged against an impossible utopia. Markets, which you enjoy comfortably in Western society, is the most proven affluent creating machine in human history. Please stop believing.
False. I mean, I'm sorry, but China has lifted more people out of poverty than any other country in the world. The Soviet Union rapidly industrialized, and, I'm sorry, I mean, Egypt wouldn't have electricity if Abdel Nasser, the socialist president, hadn't teamed up with the Soviet Union to build it. Libya was the most prosperous country on the African continent with the highest life expectancy. Cuba is heads and shoulders above Haiti and Jamaica and other countries in the region. I mean, it's like, I mean, it's just, I don't know how he can just say that, but it takes her disavowing all the socialist countries. She disavows all of them. She doesn't stand up to any of the bullshit that Charlie Kirk believes. She accepts at face value the U.S. imperialist narrative of world history of the 20th century. And so based on that, I mean, he wins the argument. I mean, and I don't understand. Why would anyone be a socialist? If everywhere socialism had ever been implemented, all it led to was death, starvation, misery, and destruction, why would anyone be a socialist, right? That's just not true. And if you don't stand up to that lie, I mean, it only helps people like Charlie Kirk.
In a utopian nightmare and start looking at things around you that are good and are consistent with the natural law.
Yeah, like China rising millions of people out of poverty, like Cuba's healthcare system that's admired all over the world. Like, I mean, there's many examples of socialism being successful, and there's many, many examples all around us of the failures of capitalism, impoverishment and chaos in the United States. But it's like, again, when, and to be fair, this is an edited clip, right? I mean, this is edited. It's choppy, meaning that they cut out some of what the woman says, but it's just like the DSA Trotskyite, frame of argument is like the best gift to Charlie Kirk you could ever have, right? And the last thing they would ever want is a communist like one of us to argue with Charlie Kirk, because we actually understand this, and we would make arguments that are based in economics, I mean, this fake socialism is just like a gift to people like Charlie Kirk.